There we go. Wait, do you still see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Hopefully that records properly. Okay, so we have this project here. I guess the first thing that I guess we're going to go through. Oh, I just heard some feedback there. I don't know where that's coming from. So the first thing with this project, there's really not a whole lot we probably have to do with this project. There might be some comments after, but you know, I think the first aspect of a lot of this stuff is just going to be getting it into Lumion. I'm just going to close a few things right now just to give my computer a bit more breathing room. So I'm going to open up Lumion while I'm doing this in the background. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go to a 3D view. You're pretty familiar with Revit, correct?
Correct.
Okay. If there's anything that you want me to go over in more detail, just let me know.
Okay.
So there should be a 3D view already set up. You can kind of see right now we're actually, this project's really old. So, you know, I would have done this differently. I would have actually put a foundation on the bottom aspect of the wall, but I think that's fine. So with this, we want to go to the Lumion tab. So once you download Revit, and once you install Lumion, there's a way to get a Lumion extension. And then there's two ways to bring Lumion in Revit. Revit into Lumion. There's this live sync thing. We've been actually not using that just because it kind of stresses out the computer a little bit more than you actually need to. So we've been doing this export button. So if you just click this export button, click export. This is a 2017 project, 14. So we typically have two folders for renderings. We have one called, I'm just gonna type these in right now, renderings, and then we have rendering files. So what that basically is rendering files is like the Lumion file, any of the exports we do, and then the renderings themselves are the actual just images, the images we pull out of Lumion. Okay. So I'm just going to save this export here, and then I'm going to pull over Lumion. This is probably like the easiest part of Lumion, I think. So we do have a template we've set up, and so that'll be another thing I'll actually go over with you at the end of the call, is how to get all the folders mapped to your computer through OneDrive, but we can do that at the end. So you're gonna see something like this at some point show up on your computer. It'll say Core Patent Designs like that. Under Resources, we have Standards and Templates. We have Lumion template, and then this Lumion template here. So we're just going to open this up. Hope it doesn't take too long. And then after we open it up, we're going to save it as a new project in the coin file. I think my I have like 25 terabytes of storage in my my SharePoint, which seems like a lot, but some of these Lumion files are getting so large. I think we have a couple 1 gigabyte Lumion files. Yeah, so it's a little intense, but yeah, I don't know, it is what it is. So this is going to be loading. So here's our kind of template. So depending on the project, like if it's a garage or if it says home, you're gonna kind of want to place it kind of more in the middle. If it's kind of a cottage, you're gonna want to place it somewhere like on the shoreline. Not really too complicated there. Just kind of use your judgment, and even if it's wrong, it's easy to kind of change. So we're just gonna move this to, we're gonna save this as in the coin project under rendering files. One of the tricks I use for saving stuff, I just go like this and I copy right there. Remove that slash out. I'd say my computer is probably like a B for like speed. It's like fast, but it's not like Andreas's laptop. Sorry. Usually when I'm speaking about Andreas for work stuff, I'll be speaking about Cordova, not Carmona. But
yeah, when we first started our meeting, I was like, my mind was going back and forth between.
Sorry about that.
You're okay.
So the first thing we want to do, Lumion, like the interface is super weird. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we want to just click this import button right here. And we want to import this export that we took from Revit. So that's that file. And then I usually save the last part of the date. And we have a particular dating format. We do, I put year underscore and then month and then day.
Okay.
And I guess the reason why I do that is mostly because the computer kind of recognizes the date format in that respect. So the first like 4 digits is the project number, and then this is usually a date that I put at the end. And you'll see that in the PDFs and a lot of the stuff that we have. So yeah, so that's not super hard. So you just kind of place it. Probably gonna place it a little bit, maybe a little bit over here more, so it's kind of out of the way. Now that I've placed it, I'm just gonna click the select button, just so it doesn't place another one. I'm using, it's kind of very similar to video games. I'm not sure if you play any video games, but it's on the keyboard, it's ASDW. So use the W to go forward, the A to go left, the D to go right, and the S to go back. And then Q is up, E is down. I won't really expect you to memorize that, but there are stuff online to teach you how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're moving, you can actually use the scroll button on your mouse to move faster, like that.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So now that we have this file in here, there's a couple things we want to start off by doing. So this is obviously a garage, so part of it's going to be buried. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a landscape button here. So we want to raise the landscape in certain areas, just so it's kind of at the bottom of this garage door. We can go back and fix it in a little bit, but I'm just going to raise a lot of this up. And then I might have some project specific stuff about how the project kind of is laid out, which I'll go over that in a second. But right now, I think the first thing to start by just putting all this in here, I think that's perfect. So after I kind of raise it up a little bit, I actually usually use this flatten button. And the nice thing about this is it'll make it a little bit even. Makes it kind of even all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll go back to use the lower button and just lower stuff slightly. But by using the flatten button, it kind of makes it a little bit more uniform. And I might bring that up again. That needs to go up still, but you can also change this. So the brush speed is how fast it raises, and then this is the brush size, so how much it raises at the same time. I'm just going to do some very subtle clicks. Yeah, so I think that it's almost there. Yeah, so I think that's probably fine for this. So the idea behind most of these projects is we kind of just want to get them Why is it not letting me go anywhere? No, it's not right. It's my. So that's kind of the first thing, is just kind of cleaning up the site a little bit. Once that's set up, the next thing you want to do is you want to go over to this material tab. And so the material tab, basically the way it works is you click on something on the Revit model, and you can go in here to adjust the materials.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, so I have some saved materials here. I don't know if these ones will show up, which we can kind of, I don't want to get you into too much stuff right off the bat. I think it'd just be good for you to be able to bring the file in, to kind of set it up, and then we kind of give it back to Andreas to maybe do some more things. And then I guess the other thing is, what I'll get you to do is maybe set up a couple rendering shots, a couple cameras, and I'll show you how to do that as well. And that way it's just like, we kind of get the basics done, and then Andreas has to go in there maybe for an hour per project and just kind of fix it up. So outdoor, we want to click some, we want to find some siding. So we're going to go to wood. These are really siding material, wood floor, stone, plaster. None of these are really siding material. Wood planks, maybe? Yeah, I guess that's not bad. So you can just do something like that. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Kind of like that one. And then you change it. You can change the roof as well. Andreas has some techniques to make roofs look a lot better, but I think for right now we'll just do with what we know right now, and we can get him to spruce things up later. I don't know. They all look the same. So the one thing you will notice is it looks like the roof is going the wrong direction. So you can actually edit the materials a little bit. And so to do that, you just want to double click on this material. And you can go in here to orientation and change the heading to 90 degrees. If you can actually select it. That's close enough. So now the roof looks like it's going the right direction. And you might want to just increase the scale just a little bit. And I'm not really expecting you to really know all this, but that's just kind of the general idea. And then probably the last thing you want to do just to kind of set it up is click the glass and change the glass to what's called pure glass. And that way you can kind of see through stuff. And it's not letting me do, that's kind of the interior. I don't want to really go crazy, but I guess the goal is just to kind of get this all set up right now. And then once you're done changing the materials, make sure you click this check mark right here. And what this check mark is going to do is just kind of finalize it and save those materials like that. The last thing I'll get you to do, which I'm just going to go up into the sky a little bit more here, kind of above the property, is we'll just place some trees around the building. So if you go under this button's kind of like the place button. So it's like if you want to like move things, place things, change things, rotate things, this is how it's kind of done. You kind of have your material button, and then you have your landscape, which is like the topography button. So under here we have trees, and we want to click this button, which is the place button. So we have place, select, rotate, scale, and delete. So we want to click place button. There's a couple different place options here. We have place and we have mass placement. I'm going to do a couple mass placements here. So if you double click, or actually let's create a line here first. And reduce the amount of items. Just gonna move this over just a little bit so it's kind of more behind it. We just kind of want to cloud or kind of cover the building, around the building in trees, so when we render it, maybe not too close to it, but just so there's a bit of a background around it. Just gonna place that one. Maybe I'll do another one going kind of this direction. The check mark there. Another one here. Check mark. Actually, I might do another one and just going to increase the amount of items. It's a little bit more dense. So place, line. It's not like too complex. So that's kind of I just want to give you a couple things to get started on, and then this is also something that you can kind of continuously do as there is like projects directly there for you or projects not there for you. Kind of like not letting me use my keyboard right now for some reason. I think actually I wonder if my keyboard's dead. I think it is. That would explain why my keyboard wasn't working before. So okay, so that's kind of the idea. So now that we have this kind of set up, we can create some images, I guess, to start rendering from. Over here, I don't actually know what they call this area over here, but there's a photo button basically, and that's where we set up the images for the render. And so we can kind of zoom in here a little bit. Andreas already has some presets set up. And so what we have to do is once we kind of align this to where we want, you can kind of adjust the focal length to make it wider or more close up. And then we can also adjust the height of the person, which this is super helpful just to understand, you know, like typically a lot of, especially interior, exterior doesn't matter as much, but for interior renderings, we want to make sure we're always doing stuff at eye level, which is, you know, around 5'10" to 6 feet kind of thing. I know obviously not like a lot of people aren't, that's maybe a little bit on the higher end of that, but I think it's good to show stuff just a little bit higher, just for perspective. And so I kind of went there fast without saying too much, but once you set the camera up, you click this store button here. So I'm just going to go over here and I'll do another one from this direction. So maybe, actually it's always good to have like a straight on view. So we'll do this straight on view like that. I'm just going to click this store button. And this one's kind of really sketchy. It's kind of interesting. So I think you can also, if there's a particular, like, Andreas has kind of set up all these presets for how the renderings look. So if, like, for example, if this one didn't work, we can just remove it. And maybe we'll bring this one over there. And then once I have that set up, I'm just going to click here and save that into that view. And then for most of these projects, oh, sorry, I don't want to go over there where the boat is. So for most of these projects, we want to probably do a couple interior ones. Some of these older projects, my interiors are not going to be as developed as my newer ones, so they're going to be like super basic. So this one, we just want to get one kind of out the interior. So I'm just going to increase the focal length so we kind of see the whole room. And I'm just going to store this one here. You can also delete some of these effects it has on here. So I'm not actually sure what's creating this like weird effect. Let's just turn everything off. There we go. I guess the biggest thing is just to kind of get stuff set up in here, and then we'll let Andreas kind of handle the rest. So we'll just set up maybe this other interior view here. Maybe one looking like this. Increase the focal length a bit. So that's kind of the idea behind these, is we just want to kind of pump through them and set them up for Andreas, and then we'll get him to, he just has a way with Lumion that I don't.
Yeah.
Which is obviously evident in a lot of the work he does. And so after you've set up these images, you can click this render photos button. And I'm not going to actually click the button right now, but if you click photo setup here, you can actually, I would just do it in this small format here just so it renders quickly. But if you click here, and then you just want to change the folder to this. I usually do 2019 08 or no 0108. And then for the file name, I go up here and just copy all this again. So maybe I will do this rendering. I don't know how much it's going to kill my computer right now, but since I've already done this one for you, might as well get you to do another one. Unless you want to just kind of redo this one, just kind of follow the steps, up to you. So I just do something like that and click save, and it'll start rendering. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's kind of the general idea. Was anything confusing or I guess overwhelming?
No, you made that very clear.
Okay, good. Lumion, I've never actually been taught Lumion. And so I've kind of, like I've been taught Revit, I've been taught AutoCAD, I've been taught Rhino. Lumion was something I was never really taught. Andreas is like, hey, let's use this great software, Lumion. I'm like, okay. And then, so he started doing it, but in order for us to improve the quality of work, I needed to learn it and I needed to figure out how to do things. So I've kind of slowly started to learn it and figure things out. And so that's just kind of how that's come about. But so that's why I've been trying to break things down a little bit more of a better manner. So I'm just going to stop this recording here.